in all fours. Again, you don't need anything but yourself. Have your hands right underneath your shoulders, your head in line with your spine, and your knees right underneath your hips. And you can have your knees about hip distance or a tiny bit wider if that feels good for you. First things first, you're going to take a nice big breath in. Feel your ribs expand wide to the side. And then exhale. Feel them draw in ever so gently in the front. And then take a nice big inhale. And this time let your abdominals kind of descend towards the floor as you breathe through your full rib cage and into your stomach. And then exhale, feel your hip bones draw towards one another, slightly towards your ribs, and your ribs close as you pull your abdominals gently away from the floor. And then again, a nice big inhale. Expand in all directions, and then exhale. Pull that exhale out. Inhale. One more time, feel your hip bones narrow as your belly picks up from the floor. And then this time, inhale. And this time, as you exhale, feel your hips draw up towards your ribs as you round your spine up towards the ceiling. And then uncurl your spine, and then think about widening your sitting bones and lengthen your chest through your arms, finding extension, and then again, press back up around. Trying to round on your exhale, and find length through the front of your body on the exhale, or inhale rather, and then again, press up, exhale. As you come into the extension, think about lengthening the front of your body, your sitting bones widen, and the distance between your ribs and your hips increases, but you don't lose it, so you're not dropping down towards the floor. You're still staying supported here. 2 more. And last one. And then pause here in a nice neutral spine. Pressing your hands gently into the floor, keeping your arms straight, you're going to let your shoulder blades slide in towards your spine, and then gently press them away from your spine. And then slide them in, your sternum will drop, and then press away. Feel that engagement across your upper back, and slide them towards your spine, and then press away. 3 more. Just getting your shoulders moving. 2. And last one, pause here at the top, and then you're going to float your right arm out ever so slightly off the floor, whatever height feels good without changing through the torso, and then slide that hand back down. Staying on the right side, just float it out in front of you, and then lower it back down. As you extend, make sure that you're not bringing one hip closer to the ribs. That distance in the front remains the same. 2 more. Shoulder blade gently slides in and down as you lift the arm. Last one, pause here, and then pull it in so your elbow comes by your side, and then reach it forward, hand stays below your shoulder. And then again, pull back, and then resist. You'd almost think like you're holding onto a resistance band as you pull that elbow back towards your side, and then release it long. 3 more. Just getting that shoulder blade moving. Chest is square towards the floor. Last one. And then place that arm down. You're going to do one of those little scapula push-ups again. Shoulder blades slide in and then press away. And then from here, you're going to float that arm up and then place it back down. And then again, float it up and back down. As you lift the arm, your shoulder blade is gently sliding down and in toward your spine. And again, that rib and hip connection is staying the same. Last one. Pause with that arm lifted and then pull it back in towards your side. Hand stays below your elbow or shoulder height rather. And again, think about pulling, finding that resistance through your arm, shoulder, and back. Exhale as you pull in. Inhale as you extend. 2 more. And last one. And then place your arm down. Press into the floor, round your spine up towards the ceiling. And then find yourself here in a nice neutral pelvis. Extend your right leg back behind you and tuck tuck the toes under. Press back through the heel here, get a nice stretch through the calf. You're still nice and neutral through the spine, and then gently rock your weight forward and then float that right leg up. You're just gonna tap it down and lift. Keeping the hip nice and open as you lift, but that back nice and neutral. Think about that gentle pull of the heels of your hands towards your knee, your hips, wherever it works. Let's get that engagement through the shoulders. 2 more. Last one, leave that leg lifted, flex at the knee, flex at the ankle. With the sole of your foot like it's gonna touch the ceiling, you're just gonna lift up an inch and then down an inch. And then up and down. Feeling that little squeeze of the hamstring, perhaps even the glute. Think like your femur is doing all the work here. Your foot is just going along for the ride. 3, 2, last one, pause here. Externally rotate that leg and then bring it back to center. Externally rotate your knee out to the side and back to center. Again here, the femur is doing all the work and your foot is just following along, a gentle movement inside of the hip flexor, or hip socket rather. 1 more, pause here at the top, and then you're gonna internally rotate and lower that leg down, and then lift it back up and rotate it parallel. So internally rotate and then lower down, and then lift in internal rotation, and then square it off. Internally rotate, tap that left calf with your knee, up, parallel. 3 more. 2. And your left glute may be feeling how much it's stabilizing you right now, but also check in with your elbows and make sure you've not locked them out. They have a little bit of softness in them. Last one. And then lower that knee down. And then from here, extend your left arm out in front of you, right leg back behind you again, and float opposite arm and leg up and lift. You can turn your palms so that your thumb is reaching up towards the ceiling to keep you a little bit more open through your chest. So that whole arm is slightly externally rotated. For 3, 2, and last one. And then bring your knee and hand underneath you. And then you can sit back and just give your wrists a little roll for a second here before we trade sides. Staying seated on your heels, you're just going to reach your right arm out to the side, left arm up towards the ceiling, and then walk those fingers out. Keep your hips heavy on that left side as you side bend up and over to the right. And then come all the way up and find yourself in your all fours again. So to start, left foot slides out behind you, tuck the toes under, send the heel back, getting that stretch through the calf. If you walk a lot, run a lot, go up a lot of stairs and your calves are tight, it always feels great. And then come ever so slightly forward so your weight is nice and neutral, and then pick that left leg up and down. You can point your foot, you can flex your foot, you can do nothing with it. Doesn't matter, just think about that length through the hip, squareness through the torso as well, lifting from the back of the leg, not the foot. For 3, 2, last one, pause here, bend the knee and the foot, flex to 90-90, and you're just going to press up an inch and then lower an inch, and up and down. Find whatever your range of motion is. You don't want to start arching your back as you lift up. You're staying nice and still through the torso. For 6, breathing here, 5, 4, 3, 2, find that engagement through the heels of your hands since we're going to be here for a little longer. Last one, and then externally rotate. That foot goes along through the ride and then back to center. And externally rotate and back. Watch what's happening with this right hip too. Make sure your weight is more or less centered on your mat and you haven't all the way shifted over towards the right. If that's the case, you're going to come down onto your right forearm to give you a little bit broader base of support here. 3, 2, last one. Now pause here, internally rotate, tap the leg down, lift an internal rotation, and then find your neutral. Internally rotate, tap, lift, neutral. Down, lift, neutral. 3 more. 2. Last one. Bring that knee underneath you. Square yourself off. If you need, bring your right hand out in front of you, left leg back, and then float that arm and leg up. And then again, think about rotating that palm towards the ceiling, reaching your fingertips and toes away from one another rather than up. So think about that length. 4 more. 3, 2, last one. Bring your arms and legs both underneath you, and then from here you're going to pick your feet up off the floor slightly, and you're just going to internally rotate and put your feet down, and lift your feet up, rotate your legs back to neutral and put your feet down, and then lift your feet, internally rotate, only going to the range of motion that is comfortable for you. So as you lift the feet up, feel the hamstrings, backs of the legs engage. Internally rotate those inner thighs, help bring those legs in with the femurs in the hip socket. You feel a widening through the sitting bones, and then they gently narrow as you lower the feet back down. Lift up, internally rotate, and back in. 2 more. And then we'll do a nice side bend on the left side, and we will move on. Last one. Pause here, and then just sit back into almost a child's pose wherever it feels good, and then come back, and you're just going to rock in and out of this a couple of times. 2 more. Last one. And then just to feel the difference before we move on, bring your toes together, and then bring your knees a little bit wider. You feel a narrowing through the sitting bones, and then feel them widen slightly as you push back. But they're still more narrow than they would have been with the internal rotation. 3 more. 2. And last one. And then sit back onto your knees. Reach the right arm straight up, left arm out to the side. You can start to walk with your fingers up and over, and then soften over to the left. Right hip is nice and heavy. Reach through the right arm. And then come all the way up. Good. From here, go ahead and come onto your right side. Forearm is right underneath you. If you prefer to lay all the way down, if that's more comfortable, go for it. But from here, notice if your ribs have started to sink down towards your mat. And then think about pressing the top hip away. So if you had a line or a little stick through your hips, they'd be a nice straight line, and that'll help pick up through the inside of your right side. And then from here, feel that arm draw in gently, and you can feel that whole connection through the shoulder into the lats and core. You're going to externally rotate and then resist back down. And then again, externally rotate and resist. Keeping your breath through your ribs, you want to continue to expand in all directions. If you do bring your breath all the way down into your stomach, that's fine. Whatever amount of breathing works for you. But just make sure that you're feeling that connection as your hips narrow towards one another to really draw your abdominals in where you get that base of support. 2. Last one. And then pause here, internally rotate. And you may notice that your internal rotation is really limited, like mine. I lift my foot like 3 inches. But really focus on the spiral of that quad inwards. Feel that femur rotate in the hip socket. 3. We're going to build on this. 2. Last one, pause in your rotation. And then you're just going to pick that leg up and then put the knee down. and pick the leg up and put the knee down. I'm going to put my knee down a little bit lower on my leg and not back on top of my other knee, just so that I can focus on the lift and that internal rotation a little. 2. Last one. And then bring that leg in line with your top leg, so you're parallel to the floor, and then bring both shins a little bit farther forward. So you're almost like in a 90-90 here. And then you're gonna lift that leg up. Again, hips stay square, and then resist it all the way back down just until you touch your leg. And then lift back up. When I mean just in touch, until you touch. Don't let it touch. Keep like an inch, a little bit of air in between the legs. 3 more. Go with whatever range of motion is comfortable without opening up through the hips. You can lean against a wall, or you can bring your top hand behind your back. 2. Last one. And then lower that leg down just to hip height, and then you're gonna press it long underneath you as though you were to stand. So that heel will be right underneath your sitting bone, and then bend it back in. And then press down, open through the front of the hip. Think like you're gonna stand, and then resist it back in. 5 more. 4. 3. Neck is nice and long. You can always bring your gaze down to your arm if that's more comfortable, or lay all the way down onto your side. Last one, leave it long. Hinge at the hip, bring the leg as far forward as you can, again, keeping your hips nice and square, and then resist to bring that leg back slightly behind you. And then sweep it forward and back. You can add the flexed foot as you come forward and a pointed toe as you sweep it back if you'd like. Two more. Pressing the floor away. Last one, bring it forward, point and leave it back, and then lower that leg all the way down. Bring your, right leg underneath you, and you're gonna stay on your forearm, and you're just gonna press up into a modified side plank here, and then bend your top knee on top and extend, and then bend it in and extend. Think about your hips lifting like someone's holding them up. You're pressing the floor away. You can bring your top arm up as you extend, and then bend and place it on top. 3 more. 2. And last one. Leave your legs stacked, lower your hips down, and then come up onto your right hand. And then you're gonna send your left leg back and your right leg forward. And then think about trying to sink this left hip down towards the floor. Coming on your fingertips on that right side. If you don't have the space to be flat on your hand, no problem. And that left hand is coming right to the crease of your hip. So not up here by your waist, but where your femur, your leg meets your pelvis. So hand in the crease of your hip, and then think about lifting up through the torso and then lifting up through the hip, spiraling the pelvis up and your spine around. And then think about a magnet on your sitting bone drawing you back towards the floor. And like you're able to release that magnet, your femur pushes you forward, your pelvis lifts up, and you twist and rotate. There's a gentle rotation here, but one that allows you to get a little bit of space through your hip. One more time. And then send that hip maybe a little closer towards the floor than it was before. Extend your arms out to the side. Side bend up and over towards the left. And then place that right hand down. Lift your hips as you side bend to the right. Again, finding that space through the hip. And then back down. And side bend over to the left. 2 more. Press down through the right hand. Lift the hips. Press through both legs. And up and over to the left. Last time to the right. And over to the left. And then Swing your legs around to the other side and come onto your forearm. Having this left arm underneath you, find that connection. Feel it draw gently in towards your hip. Feel that engagement. You can almost, actually everyone can do this. Take your hand, put it underneath your left side. Let your arm kind of feel like it's pushing away. And then feel it draw in as you lift gently up and lengthen through that right hip. And you can sort of feel your lats and all your muscles on your left side engage and work for you, because why work against them? They're there for a reason. Clamshell. So externally rotate that top leg and open. Hips staying square. You can back yourself up against the wall if that works. Opening and making sure that, well, this really limits your range of motion. It doesn't give you much of a choice here. So feel free to the wall involved. 2 more. Last one. Good, and then internally rotate. So your knee stays down and you're just thinking about that internal rotation. Don't worry about what your foot does as you lift. Lift. 4 more. 3, 2, and last one. Pause here. Lower your leg down a little if that helps you get a little extra rotation, and then you're going to lift up and back down. And you can almost think like your foot is kind of going up and back on a diagonal. For that internal rotation. And again, this is very small. 2 more. Last one. And then bring your legs more at a 90-90 here. So hips are still square. Your hips rather are still in line with your spine. Your legs are just forward, and you're going to lift your leg up to about hip height, and you're going to lift your whole leg up. Foot and knee lift at the same rate, and then put it back down. Check in with that left arm. Make sure it hasn't tried to slide away from you like mine does. Always. And lift. And back down. 6 more. 5. 4. 3. 2. Last one. Pause with that leg right at hip height. Press it back or down underneath you. You can flex the foot if you'd like. Hip flexors open, but you're in a nice long line, and then resist, bring it back in. So again, as though you were standing on that leg and this right knee was bent into or left leg rather was bent into tabletop. You can bring your top arm up if you'd like a little extra balance, or bring it down to the floor for more support. 3 more. 2. And last one. Pause with that leg long. Hinge at the hip, bring that leg forward. You can flex it if you'd like. Again, not rounding through the low back. Point the leg, the foot rather, not the leg, as you sweep it slightly back behind your hip, and then forward again, and sweep it back, and forward. Don't worry about how big your range of motion is, more how in control of the movement you are. 3 more. 2. And last one. And then lower that leg down, slide your bottom leg underneath you. Again, make sure that that bottom arm is pulling in. Reach your arm up towards the ceiling or have it on your hip, your choice. Lift up into this little modified plank here. Your hips are being pulled up, bottom arm underneath you, and then bend your left leg on top of your right. Other way. Extend your right leg, bend your right leg in. Resist as you lower that leg towards the floor, and then resist again as you lower it towards your bottom leg. Keep pressing up through the hips. You're open through the chest. Always drop that hand to your hip. Or do this. Again, down on your hip. For 3. 2. Last one. And then lower that leg all the way down. Press up onto that left hand. And then send your right leg back, left leg forward. Coming for me onto the tiptoes, fingertips, right hand at that hip crease, not your waist. You're gonna lift up, think about pressing that femur forward. Your left leg stays heavy on the floor, pelvis lifts, and then rotate. Kind of like you're the barbershop pole, the red and white. And then slide that hip back down. Keep resisting through that front leg. And then lift up, find that rotation. And then come back down. 2 or 3 more, depending on how fast you're going. But really think about feeling the draw back down of that right sitting bone as you come back, and then lift up, and then think like sort of hip through your spine, spiral up to a corner somewhere where the wall meets the ceiling. And then bring your arms out to the side bend up and over towards the right. And then place your left hand down, lift up through the hips, side bend up and over towards the left, and then back down, side bend towards the right. Obviously, if you need to adjust your legs and your hand, do so. Your hands shouldn't be super far out from underneath you. 2 more. Last one to the left. Come all the way down, up and over, reach to the right. And then bring your legs around behind you, not in front of you, behind you. Hands come underneath your shoulders one more time. And then slide your legs back. Have your heels find your butt. And if you'd like to tuck your toes under, you can. Get a little stretch through the bottom of your foot. And then come forward into a modified plank position here. If you would like to stay here, you can. Gently tuck your tailbone under regardless. But if you'd like to lift up into a full plank, you can go for it. And then you're just going to lift your hips up into a down dog. And then come forward. And then you can drop your knees and find that plank. Come up into a full plank. Lift your hips. And then drop down to your knees. Untuck your toes. Bend your elbows back towards your hips as you lower down, body all at once towards the floor, and then press up. Again, think about that tuck under through the pelvis so that your abdominals are coming with you. They're not hanging down towards the floor. You can always do this with your hands on a wall if you'd prefer. 3, 2, last one. Press up, sit back into a child's pose, but bring your knees nice and wide here. And then let your chest float down, melt towards the floor. Take 1 or 2 breaths in here. Really think about breathing into your back. 1 more breath in. And then roll yourself all the way up. And you can come to sit kneeling, how I am, like low kneeling with my butt on my heels, or you can sit cross-legged or with your legs out in front of you, whatever you prefer. You're gonna lift your your left arm up, and you're gonna grab onto your ribs with your right hand. Reach up, and as you do, breathe in. Feel the breath come into that hand, and then exhale, lower. Rather, release. And then inhale. Breathe into your hand and exhale as you come up and over towards that side. Bring your hand a little bit higher up. Stay here in your side bend. You can also drop that arm if that feels better, or bring it behind your head. We'll do that. Breathe into your hand and release. Pick a spot where you feel it's a little sticky, hard to get the breath. You can also do this laying on your side. 1 more time, breath in here on the left side. And then stack your spine all the way back up. Over to the right side. Right arm lifts straight up. Hold on to the right rib cage with your left hand. Take a breath in. And then reach up towards the ceiling and then exhale. Just relax down. Inhale here. Exhale, side bend. In this side bend, I'm going to bring my hand again behind my head. Find a spot where you feel that there's some tension. Bring your hand there. And then exhale, try to soften. Inhale and try to breathe into your hand, your fingertips. 2 more breaths. You can find another spot if you'd like. Making sure we're using our whole, all the space we have to breathe. And then come all the way up. Bring your hands up in front of you. Lock your thumbs. Reach your fingers up towards the ceiling. You can gently back bend if that feels good. Feel your ribs find their space on top of your hips. The front of your ribs are heavy. And then side bend up to the left. Take that breath in. Feel the space in between your ribs and those intercostal muscles. Come all the way up and over to the other side. And then come up to the top. Externally rotate your hands. Feel your shoulders drop if they started to creep up, just gently. And then press down. Grow tall through the crown of your head, like you're a little corkscrew, and then let your arms find your sides. And you are all finished. Thank you.